This episode of Late to the Mic is brought to you by ReptiChip.
There's an easier way to make your coconut substrate. We did the hard part for you.
Oh, hello. Episode 61. How are we all doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I think this is like the happiest I've been in like a few weeks at least.
I wonder why.
That is absolutely ecstatic. I am very excited to introduce our guest, Tonia. A lot of y'all will probably recognize her from the documentary on HBO, Chimp Crazy. Hi, Tonia. How are we doing today?
Hey, great. How are you guys?
Oh my goodness. We're Chase and I are excited. I think Molly is absolutely through the roof.
I am. I honestly, I can't hide it. I really am. I've just been smiling this whole time. I was getting ready and I was just thinking about it.
Thank you.
My goodness. It has been I would argue an out of body experience for Molly for the past week. She all of this, we kind of talked backstage for a second, but all of this stemmed from a TikTok, I guess you posted, that had your email for contact for media events and stuff. And Molly immediately sends me a text and she's like, we got to try and do this. And I was just like, you know what? If you can make it happen, I'm all in. I would love to do this. And
that is so cool. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if she's worked this hard in a long time, but it's okay.
She doesn't work that hard.
So. Yeah, this is why they need me. Because Patrick was like, "How'd you find her email?" And I was like, "Well, just TikTok. It's right there."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, wow.
Yeah, Amber is my manager, and she's done pretty good about putting stuff out there. Yeah.
Have you had some a lot of opportunities? Have people been reaching out like to talk to you?
Yeah, like I just did on the point the podcast for what is that? The Rizzuto show. I did it on the morning radio, and then I went and did his podcast right after that. But I've done a lot of LA podcasts, some over in UK, some over in
nice.
Australia. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. So we're obviously going to dive a little bit into Chimp Crazy, surprisingly. But did you expect this kind of reaction from Chimp Crazy? Like, because I mean, you kind of went from I think people knew of you, but to like this. Did you expect that?
No. I didn't know what to expect because the whole thing about Chimp Crazy has been exactly that, crazy. As you guys know, I was tricked into doing Chimp Crazy. Yes. So I had no idea that it was going to be like Eric Good, Get Entertainment, that type thing. So it's been quite the experience, I must say.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that we were gonna touch on was. We know from the documentary you got tricked into it, but during the screening process, like how did that initial conversation with like, hey, we want to do a documentary go?
Okay, so I was approached by Dwayne Cunningham, the proxy director. He just reached out via email to me and said, hey, we're a couple of private owners that have good, exotic animals. And we just are wanting to do a small documentary that is paid for by us, so it didn't have any backing or anything like that. And we seen your interview with Channel 2 local news station regarding the chimps and the situation there. And I was wondering if I could come out and, talk to you and maybe film a little bit for our little small documentary so that we could show some good ownership and maybe get you some support to help you save the chimps.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes. So that is a very different take than what actually happened.
So what was going on? Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Very different. And that's what people's got to understand, And so he dropped the right names because he had worked for Pam Rosaire, which is the other chimp lady that was on,
Okay.
the docu series. He had actually worked for them in their show, and he had been in Barnum Bailey Circus, so he knew the right people, and he worked for Doc Antle down there
Oh.
ones and stuff. So he knew the right people and could talk the right game, and he knew animals. So I never suspected that he was anything different than what he said he was.
So after the documentary, how much have you talked to Dwayne at all? Like, have you kept in contact with any of them or anybody from the
Uh,
documentary at all?
yeah. I try to talk to Dwayne because Dwayne and I built a really good relationship. Um, and it was hard whenever I found out, and I didn't realize how much he was involved and
Mhm.
how bad it was until I actually watched the documentary and I seen
Wow.
the opposite side where he was talking with Eric, and they were talking. Now a lot of that was filmed probably after the fact, if that makes sense, to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
Yeah.
the series come together. So how much of it is show and how much of it is realistic, I will never know. But I always knew that Dwayne was my friend. You could always sense that whenever you talk to somebody. It doesn't matter if they trick you or not. You can only be tricked so hard. But because we talked about everything, we talked about his child because his child was having some problems. We talked about, and he's a grown child, but he got to meet my family, knew my family. I offered him a position at the safari. Um,
Oh, wow.
after this was before I knew, everything was going down, but this is when we were building and they were out filming it and stuff. I even offered him a position after the fact to come work at the safari. That's how close we were.
Oh.
And
Oh
so
my
for
god.
him to be destroyed like that, um, I still care about Dwayne. I can't help but care about him because we spent
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 years filming together quite often. And so you built a relationship, but there's something there between us. But in the same token, there's a lot of trust that's been betrayed, and it's really hard for me to like really open up to him. So it's not the
Yeah.
same type of relationship.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
I couldn't imagine, putting all that time and energy into someone and then that happens. That's
Well,
I
and
know.
he
Yeah.
did some good stuff. And if you only knew, just like they were gonna narrate the story different, they were gonna make it kind of like a Tiger King, worse than Tiger King thing. But I
Oof.
I think he kept behind the scenes supporting and stressing to Eric and to Jeremy McBride that it's a love story. It's not like Tanya Gaines, like Joe and them. They all exhibited their animals and they all made money off those animals. But I never made any money off of those chimps. I
Yeah.
only did out of the kindness of my heart to go up and help Connie. They were not my chimps initially. And so I think he always knew that it really was about love for me with those kids. And
Yeah.
so he did advocate that for me because on many occasions Jeremy and Eric told me that he did.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that's
I
good.
mean that's
That's really good.
awesome. I mean
And
that,
I think that yeah, I think that that's really important. I do feel like that did show through. I feel like it did show through in the documentary just how much you do care and like emotionally invested more than anything else over monetary investments. I
Right,
think that
right.
definitely did show through for sure. Now, have you what did have you talked to Connie? Like what did she watch the documentary? How did she feel about that? That was something that I was curious about as well.
I have the last time Connie sent me a text was right before the last episode was going to air, and she just asked me how I was holding up and that type stuff, and I sent her a text back, and I've not heard from her since, and I
oh.
not
Yeah.
called her myself, so I've not tried to reach out, not because I don't want to, because I love Connie and I have the utmost respect for her, but it's because I know she's hurting because they're rehashing all the stuff with Travis, and PETA's trying to
Yeah.
rear their ugly head by contempt motions and the civil suit and all the stuff. And I know it's so much for her to digest because you got to realize Connie is a very private person and she's been burnt so many times by media that she wants to just live in peace. And I feel bad because I feel like even though I didn't intentionally bring it on her, I still did but not meaning to,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that I mean,
Absolutely.
like you said at the beginning, you didn't know what you were getting into initially, right? When one person says, "I'm doing a small independent documentary," you have one mindset versus HBO sending in Eric. That's distinctly
Yeah.
different there.
When they when they during the filming process, obviously there's I believe it's the end of the second episode that they're walking down to the basement, and Tonka is in the basement there. What was the like your reaction, or how you felt with them filming him down in the basement, or what was that kind of thought process?
Well, first of all, that was not like exactly how it went down.
Oh
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was clipped, snipped, and done
Oh,
50
wow.
bajillion times. So that's not how it really went down. Um,
Okay.
so I have a real hard time with that, because that's part of the portrayal, that they made me be something that I'm not, and that really upset me, because I thought they respected me better than that, and I thought they knew me better than that. But first of all, and I will tell you, I have had a lot of stress, so some of the stuff doesn't come 100% clear. But I will say this: I don't believe that we even went downstairs, but we sure didn't right after the court hearing was done,
Yeah.
because I left with my husband to go eat um, at a lakeside restaurant called Baxter's. And if you look, I posted that on my Facebook page that day that
Okay.
it happened, because I was
Oh.
relieved about the PETA
Wow.
situation, because I won that case hearing. And, because I'm trying to protect my boy here, guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they left to go eat lunch, and they didn't want to eat with me that day, and I didn't know why, because normally we all ate together, but it was because Eric Good was in town, and they didn't want me to know, obviously, because you can tell
Oh.
by
Wow.
what they put out there. But anyway, so they did not see Tonka like that, and we did not go down and celebrate like that. But you've got to have dramatic stuff, so you're going to narrate it to that
Right.
part of it. They knew all along that Tonka was alive from the word jump. From the day that they met me, they knew he was alive.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
So now Eric's saying that he didn't, that Dwayne didn't disclose every conversation that he and I had. He's saying that they didn't know, that part of the film crew didn't know, but the actual film crew that was there filming at Connie's knew Tonka was alive. So it was no surprise to them. None of that crap happened like they're portraying it did.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, and so this is exactly why I wanted to talk to you, because we know, like, obviously, like it's clipped up this way, and the show's going to be clipped up a certain way. But this is exactly why, wanting to hear your story, and how things like this went for you. I mean, that just is
Absolutely.
crazy.
So,
like-
Well,
so
yeah, because it makes me look deceptive, like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, they
I'm so,
embellished everything.
yeah. And I'm like, no, I was so scared at that hearing. And you got to realize, you guys didn't see the whole hearing, because even though they were there the whole time, and they filmed the whole hearing, they were in my living room and I was in my dining room. They only showed you the last part of it, where I put the computer down, shut the computer. But
Yeah.
I
right.
Yeah.
shut the computer down and sobbed like endlessly for quite some time. But just because of the stress of the Jared Goodman and these expert witnesses that they got regarding cremation and stuff, they were badgering me for like an hour,
Oh, I
droning,
bet.
Oh.
droning me. And that's why I was crying, some of it. And not only that, but because of the fact that I had to protect my boy at all costs,
Yeah.
I was like, every time they were trying to like discredit me, I would go a little bit further, and I would get sadder and sadder, and I would cry. But they only showed me crying like in I faked the tears, that type stuff. No, I was distraught, but not
No.
so much because of me telling the story of Tonka me finding Tonka dead, but it was because I was being badgered and harangued by Jared Goodman, Pee Wee Herman. And that's why, if you remember the comment that I made about Jared Goodman, and the court reporter, or the court
Mhm.
recorder lady said, "Hey, Miss Haddix, I just want you to know you still are on microphone."
Yes.
I was. I thought when we took a break, we were taking a break. And so she just wanted to give me a gentle reminder. So if you really piece it together, you can tell it wasn't about me faking the tears of Tonka.
Yeah.
I mean, the story. It was because of everything happening to me and all the emotions that was running through me, because it was like fight or flight. You're gonna fight for that boy, or you're screwed. So that's what it amounted to, as to why the tears were so heavy, and why, because if you see in all the other court hearings, even whenever I was present in court, I always cried too. And it wasn't because I was faking it or any of the crap that they portray me to do. It's because, really, I mean, if anybody lived with 4 years of PETA droning you, you would be worn out with it too.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, that
No.
that's
I don't
that's
think
a
any of
whole
us would want to deal with that.
no, not even a little bit. Yeah, so it is crazy, like when you think about it, right? Because like, so when you're watching that episode, right, and they show like you end the court case and then immediately essentially sprint downstairs and Tonka's there. I know when we all watched it, we're just like, what the shit? Like, what
Right.
just happened?
Yes.
Like-
I mean, it's exactly
like-
what they want to. It's exactly how they wanted it to happen. And it did. It worked, because I remember I watched it and
I mean, we
genuinely- I
were
was
all
just
just like blown away.
what?
This Molly calls me
course.
immediately and she's like, are you at the end yet? I'm like, I'm almost there. She's like, you're not gonna believe it.
Well, I would be the same way. And see, that's the whole thing. That's what makes
Yeah.
money. That's what sells the docuseries,
yeah.
is
Yeah.
all of that drama, that over dramatization. But we practice. And see, they got mad at me because they said, "Why would you lie and tell people that this is scripted?" Because that's the word I used, was scripted.
Yeah.
That it was
Yeah.
cheeky and scripted. And I said, "Okay, I'll clarify that to people from here on out, because I don't want to be called a liar." I said, "You didn't hand me a script and say, okay, this is the lines you're going to say and this is what's going to happen. But you did have me redo it, like sometimes 5 times, and rehearse words 5 times.
Oh.
And not always, but some of it, or like, they would have me do certain things. So they did narrate it how they wanted you to be. So even though they didn't hand you a script per se and say, this is what you're going to say verbatim, they did have me re-say things 50 times and the way they wanted me to, and that type of stuff. So to me, I consider that scripted, but that doesn't mean they handed me a script. And I do want to clarify that, because Eric
Yeah.
big time for
No,
that.
absolutely. That does feel scripted, though, for sure.
Yeah.
I can see why you would say it that way.
I
Yeah.
think
And again, it was not a literal, okay, they handed me a
Script.
script.
Yeah.
It was just the word I used.
we had an individual on last week, Bob Bledsoe, he's an actor out in Hollywood, and he originally started out kind of doing writing and stuff, and he was working on a reality TV series, and he said that they wouldn't let him call him a writer because there's no script, so it's not scripted. He was a content producer, which is
Okay,
clearly
well,
a different
yeah.
thing.
Okay,
Producing the
that's
content,
their way
yeah.
of circumventing the truth.
Yes.
which is
Exactly.
scripted.
Exactly.
No, I've been keeping up with your TikTok. Like, that's obviously how I was able to contact you. So but I've been keeping up with your TikTok and your posts and everything. And one that I found really interesting, you talked about how Tonka was not your favorite chimp, and you really didn't have a favorite. But was there like more of a special connection with him overall? And is that like why you chose like him to take care of him? Like, what was that kind of reasoning, or
It always makes me cry, so just bear with me.
Oh,
Tonka
course.
was a special chimp, but everybody loved Tonka that met Tonka, because Tonka was a human chimp. He was a humanity. He had been around trainers his whole life, and not just one trainer, but multiple trainers. So he was like the life of the party, and he was eager to please, and especially women. So he was loved by everybody. So I loved him so much, but I had a special connection with him from the jump go, because of his being so kind. But the main one that I felt bad for was Connor. And because Connor wasn't, he was a very popular chimp because he was a Hallmark greeting card chimp, but
Right,
they
right.
had worked him so late in life that he, what I call, got demasculinted. And I know that's not a true word because I've already been hit up by people saying I think I'm so iconic I can make new words, but that's
You
just a,
are.
that okay. Well, thank you, but that's just a word I use to describe how Connor was a chimp that never, he displayed so much because he was so confused about where he belonged, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. He never he never bred, even though he was with several girls. He would, like, if a woman came to him, most male chimps will get excited about that. I'm sorry, that's just what they do. And Connor never got excited around women. He always got
Interesting.
excited and flagged when there was men present, and that means human men. So he definitely had
Interesting.
like traits of a chimp that was demasculinted, and again, not a true word, but he lost his masculinity
Yeah.
because Mike controlled him for so long, and Mike dominated him for so long to work him so long
Mm.
in the
Mm.
commercials and that type stuff, that Connor wasn't really, didn't become his own until like he was 23 or 24 years old. And then that's when him and Tonka had always been housed together, and they got into a huge brawl. And because Tonka, being the sweet chimp he is, he got he got beat up really bad by Connor,
Yeah.
and so that's when he found out he was a little bit more dominant, but he was angry because he really didn't understand those feelings. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
Well, and that's why I call it demasculined. You, or that he was gay. You can say whatever you want, but he was not right. He
Yeah.
wasn't. He didn't know what he was or where he belonged because of the fact that he was used so late in life, if that makes sense.
Does that happen often with like working chimps? Like what are kind of the protocols for like when people decide like we're going to use this guy for whatever?
Well, to be honest with you, you're going to have to realize the only chimps that I was around for very long was Connie's chimps.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so I never worked them in Hollywood. I never got to be a part of that life. So I can't honestly tell you that I know, because I don't want to act like I'm a chimp expert. But I can tell you this, even Connie said, and a lot of people said, that Connor was worked older than what normal
Okay.
chimps
Okay.
would be worked.
Yeah.
And so with that said, that's how I come up with the conclusions that I do. But me knowing Connor and seeing Connor as he was older, I know that because we had a 15-year-old male chimp, and he was all male chimp,
Yeah.
very strong, very aggressive, knew his junk, that type thing. So you could definitely tell the difference between what I considered a normal male high strung chimp versus Connor.
No.
Really, there is a difference.
With the whole docu-series, with obviously you become more of a household name to people. People know who you are, and especially with the zoo and everything. Do you feel like it has benefited you more from the docu-series? Like, would you do it again?
Oh, never, never, never.
Yeah.
No. Eric kind of joked around, or kind of slightly broached right after the docu-series got released, and I jumped him about, because they kept saying, oh, I really think you're going to love it. Jeremy McBride kept saying, I think you're going to love it. I think it's going to be like a conversation piece that we're going to show 50-50 of your perspective and Peter's perspective, and we're going to let people decide for themselves. And I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to love it. I have many texts where I have cussed them to no end, begging them not to, literally telling them they're going to destroy my life and please don't do this, and that you guys are a film crew that come in, and that you guys don't clean up the mess afterwards. You guys just take off and leave the people holding the bag and the aftermath. And I beg them to please not do this to me, and don't do me that way, that you guys say you care about me. So please please, please, please don't. But they insisted that I was going to like it and that it's going to be great, and all these crazy things, but it's not, and it wasn't, and trust me, it has destroyed my life. 100% destroyed my life.
Wow.
Mhm.
So were you? Did they tell you that, and then were you able to actually see the full final cut before it was released,
Um,
or were you just
well,
kind of like shocked like we were when we all first saw it?
no, I did get to see it like the Sunday before it got released. The following Sunday, I got to go to St. Louis. There's so much to this, but I got to go to St. Louis, and I got to Dwayne Cunningham met me, and Bryce, which I love Bryce, one of the film crew kids, and he's a young kid that works for Eric, but he's always been super kind to me, and they met me in St. Louis at a hotel, and we went to like their convention room and like their meeting room, and I got to watch it all four pieces of it, like back to back to back with those. But when you're sitting there and you're already like, feeling awkward about the situation,
Yeah.
and you're trying to review everything and trying to make sure I catch everything, you don't get half of it. And then it aired on Sunday, and I didn't even watch the fourth one with it coming out, because, and so I didn't remember half of it, and I actually accused Jeremy of not showing me the right one
Oh
because
my
it didn't
God.
seem like it was the right one. So that tells you how much you didn't catch. You know what I
Yeah.
Right.
mean? And
Yeah.
I thought they altered it, and he was like, Tanya, I promise. It wasn't. And I was like, no, you guys tricked me. You didn't want me to see it, because when that money was being shared, whenever we opened the safari and that money was being handed, and all, like, you were making all
Yeah.
this money and stuff, I didn't recall any of that. And so I was like, no, I think that was not the right. I think you guys showed me the wrong one. And he
Yeah.
was really upset because he was like, no, I promise it wasn't. But that tells you where you're at. Your mind, you're so
Yeah.
stressed out, and you're so tired of everybody being after you. You guys don't realize they write bad articles about you, and you can't even really tell the truth, because no, they and just like sometimes I'll get on TikTok, which I'm sure if you've watched my TikTok, there'll be
Yeah.
people like, well, you lied to a federal court judge. And I'm like, yes, I did, but I didn't want to. I did not want to. The thing of it is, I lied to PETA, and PETA brought it before the courts. I didn't intentionally just set out to lie to her. You guys,
Yeah.
and I didn't think it would go that far, because you guys got to realize there was another chimp that had died earlier, and when we were in the lawsuit, before I was added to the lawsuit. Her name was
Mhm.
Kimmy, and she was a zippy chimp, and she was 64, and we just told PETA she died, and she did, and we had the posting and everything from the vet and stuff. She died on the table at the vet's office. But I thought I had planned it to where PETA would just leave me alone with Tonka, and that they were getting the other six, and I wouldn't have to lie, and it wouldn't have went, to the extreme that it did.
Really far.
And that's what people don't understand. I'm not a bad person. I'm not saying I didn't make a bad decision,
Yeah.
because I'm the first to admit I'm human, but I didn't realize it was going to be like it was, and like it ended.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I agree. I think the perfect part you said right there is that you're human, and it's
Yeah,
one thing.
we
Like,
know you're not a bad person. Like, I mean,
yeah, like that. I think that's clear. Like I said, I think it's more so you can tell it's not anything monetary. It wasn't anything. It was an emotional. It was an emotional attachment. That was your kid, and that I think that truly does show throughout, even just the docu series itself. I do feel that shows, even if people don't look at anything else, like your TikTok, or look at any or your podcast or anything like that. I do see, like, in the docu series, I do feel that shows for sure. I think you know it's interesting. There's a lot of different opinions when you watch it for the first time and you really kind of delve into it. But I think that was pretty clear that it was not. It was you just cared so deeply. So I think that really did show.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think so too. But I think that was due to Dwayne, because Dwayne kept stressing that, because I think they were going to narrate it like they turned me in to PETA. They were going to have that explosive ending, because I think they shortchanged me. I think they overthought that I would have an explosive ending, like when the U.S. Marshals come, that it would have been my life or something like crazy come out of that. And truthfully, for the most part, it could have, but there's no way, because when the U.S. Marshals knocked on my door that morning, I didn't even hear them. I was sleeping, and Jerry's like, "Hey, the U.S. Marshals are here," and I said, "For what?" And he's like, "For the fugitive you have downstairs." And I was like, I just jumped out of bed. I was like, "Oh, no way!" No.
Oh my God, the fugitive you have downstairs. I just
What
love
a
how
statement.
like overly dramatic that is, while all at the same time being accurate. It's
And
great.
I was like, "Oh crap." And so I'm like, "No way." And he's like, "Yeah, way." And so I'm like, "Okay, go out and stall him." And I said, "I'm going to get Tonkin. I'm getting him out of here." So I went downstairs and I pulled him out of his cage. And I had called my friend, and she was going to meet me at the end of the road, and I was going to get him. And I was going to go ahead and just walk him down into the woods and meet her. And we were going to take him over to her house, so that I could just leave him there until they left and then bring him back. But whenever I looked outside, there was a door that went outside from his room, and I seen feet walking back and forth, and I knew it was Marshall's, and I knew I had no choice, because if I would have opened that door, two things would have happened. One is, if they would have tried to stop me, he would have got them, because he would have been protecting me. I mean, he would have protected me 100%, I guarantee you. Or B, they would have shot him in front of me. And there was no way in hell I was going to see that boy shot or somebody else lose their life over a choice I made. So all I did was take his Powerade, and I just took him and put him back in his cage. And then I went upstairs, and as they walked through with Jerry, I left and I started walking down the road. I was heading to that same friend's house, and I was going to try to figure out what the heck I'm going to do. And then U.S. Marshal came later than I guess he was supposed to in the beginning. So he seen me on the road, and he said, "Hey, are you Tonia?" And I'm not going to lie to a police officer. So I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you need to come back to the house." So I went with him back to the house. And then, yeah. So no, there was no way. So they underestimated me. They thought they were going to get that explosive ending, and there was no way I could have done that to my kid ever.
Right.
Ever.
Right. And that's again, that just shows just how much you do care about Tonka and just like the whole situation. And, not you wouldn't lie to the police officer and everything. Like, it does show that you're a good person and you do care about it. It has this, we talked about this, you talked about the safari a little. Has this brought like any business to your safari? How is that going? I was curious about that after watching that the series too.
I think it's done some brought to you to come looky lures that want to see the Chimp Crazy lady, and they're shocked whenever they see me actually do the encounters or admit them to the zoo. I have seen some good people come out to show support to me and bring me gift bags and make me necklaces and stuff like that. But in this and all over, I have one coming from Oregon. I just had somebody today that came from Minnesota. I see that as being a pickup, but in the same token, I see where, because they have put out some articles locally in the paper, I see where that is a negative thing, because then you have people scared off because I'm that lady that hid that chimp in the basement, and shame on her, and she lied to the judge. And so I see 50-50. I see where it's hurt us, and I see where it has brought some people too.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I kind of expected it to bring a lot more business, if nothing else, like you talked about from the looky loos, where just like, let's go see the Chimp Lady Crazy, right? Like, yeah, I'm a little surprised, but so talking about PETA, obviously it feels like you're kind of on their, America's Most Wanted list. What is that? What is that experience like?
I'm on their top 10. Oh, it's horrible. That's horrible, because they come after you at all costs. As you notice, go look at their page. They ridicule every single solitary thing that you do. They are trying to take my USDA license away, even though I've never had a write up on any situation that I've ever caused or harmed an animal. They're trying to take my license away because I lied to that federal court judge. They are, okay, they're going after me for that. They're trying to, again, get me for contempt. They're trying to ask the judge, they're trying to piss the judge off because of the docuseries showed that episode where, I was at that court hearing and I shut that computer down like I was insulting her, making fun of her, or however you want to, insulted her courtroom. And so she's asked for the perjury charges to be brought back up. And so they're trying to go after you they're trying to destroy you, is what they're trying to do.
And that's why, I talked to Patrick earlier about this. Like, you already had to pay them like a certain amount. They have Tonka. Like, there's so much. Like, they got what they were initially after. I do find it interesting, like how much that they still are just constantly beating you down, and just keep going more and more.
That tells you that everything I've said, it's not about the chimps. It's about an agenda they have. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's facts. And that's why I implore everybody, look, don't take my word for the stuff. This case would blow somebody's mind. If you guys had more time than what you do on this podcast, I could show you where that federal court judge, I was going pro se, so I wrote my own motions. She didn't even rule on most of my motions. She just ignored them. I could show you where when the U.S. Marshals came to my house, they did not have a search warrant. They only had a temporary restraining order, which means just like if you were abusing somebody and they serve you to stay away from that person, but they busted through my gates, drew guns on us, had a bulletproof vest, acted like we were just these horrific people until they met us, and then they, settled down. But I have been treated so crazy over this whole thing that people have no clue. And that's why I've agreed to keep doing social media and not shutting up, because people need to know. And just like, okay, the chimps, if you look back when we signed that consent decree, PETA and I signed this consent decree and it went before the judge and she made it an actual court order, a court document. If you look when it was signed, and I can't even remember, but I believe it was like in September. Now, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was. They made me keep their 4 chimpanzees that I agreed to give them from that September all the way through July of the following year. Even though I wasn't fit enough to keep those chimps my own self, and I had to give up some of them, or they were trying to take them from us. They had to pay me a check every month for groceries, for like expenses for those specific chimps that they got.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So people need to know that, okay, so they think I'm this horrible person, but how come then I even wrote a motion into that judge saying, okay, I believe you're going against, and I can't remember what amendment it is, but I think it's my 11th amendment. Don't quote me on that either, because I don't want to
it's okay.
be a liar.
We're not going to hold you to every single fact, I promise.
Yeah, everything. Well, I have been, because like I said, everybody counts on Tonia. Everything they say they want to call me out on. But whatever the amendment was, it was indentured servitude. I basically told her, let them come get these chimps. I'm done. You guys come get the chimps. I'm done. I'm over it. And she made a motion that said I had to stay and take care of those chimps. I had to. She held me to do that. Wow. And so I wrote that amendment saying that she's going against whatever indentured servitude amendment is, that she's making me be an indentured servant to have to take care of something I don't want to.
Yeah. That's an interesting dichotomy there, right? Where you're not fit to own these animals, but also we're going to pay you to take care of them. So please keep taking care of them.
Then one of the citations they were nailing Connie for was inappropriate vet care. Well, let me tell you this. Once I got them signed over to me, I started getting them kids' health assessments every year. My vet would come up, dart them, do like ultrasounds, would do lab work, would do different things on those chimps. Well, the year that consent decree was signed, I contacted PETA because if you read, I'm supposed to let them know anything new with the chimps, their chimps, and ask for permission to treat them or whatever. So I told them, hey, look, my vet's coming up to do their annual checkup. I was wondering, do you want to go ahead and want me to do your 4 chimpanzees that you guys have in your custodial? I have in my actual physical custody, but you guys are responsible for. If so, that he can bill you for that, and if you want that, he will gladly do it for you to keep up with their vet care. Guess what? They didn't want us to do it, and I have the email from Jerry Goodman stating that, but they cited Connie for not doing that. So it's like what they do, what they actually do, and what they actually talk out of one side of their mouth is totally different.
Interesting. Huh.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting you had to take care of them.
That's why I love this conversation. All the extra details, and stuff we didn't get, and a lot of your facts.
I'm curious too. After the series aired and everything, have you talked to? I know there's a few other people that were in the series. Obviously, have you talked to any of the people like? I don't remember her name in Florida. It's
Pam Rosaire and them.
Yes.
So,
yes.
No, I have never. I only had one conversation with Pam a long time ago, and it was just whenever I had first went up to Connie's, and it was just a general conversation. But I have never actually spoke to her, and so I didn't know her well enough to reach out. And then when she lost Chance, I felt horrible for her because I know she loved those chimps to death, and I wanted to offer my condolences. But I just on Facebook when she posted that Chance passed away, I did put something on there, but I've not physically reached out to them at all.
Yeah, because I always wonder too how they felt about all the portrayals and everything, and how again, I'm just so happy that we get to hear how you felt about it, because that was my main thing that I wanted to learn, is just how much like the story like affected you or how much you knew, and this has just been so eye-opening, honestly.
And all the stress you went under and the strength you've shown through it, even just coming on and talking to people and telling more of your story. I mean, that just shows a lot about your character and how strong
staying
you
on
are.
social media and still just like telling your story is really important.
Well, my whole thing of it is I just want people to just be aware. I want people to know that even though they made me to be this crazy lady, which I'm not saying I'm not eccentric, I think I am. And I mean, come on, I don't mind talking about the eyelashes, but at least I'm upfront with it.
Molly's pretty eccentric too, Tonya.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I get it.
But there's no crime in that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
lot of women. There wouldn't be so many filler people if there wasn't people doing filler.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So more power to you. If you can look the best you can be every day, I say go for it.
I love that so much. That's amazing.
And I don't mind telling you, I don't mind to go out in a dress and go clean chimp poop or any other poop and I have long nails. I don't care. The fact of it is I still take care of my animals. I still can lift a 50-pound bag of bedding or grain or anything like that. And I still can work just like everybody else. So, just because I want to be the best that I can be every single solitary day doesn't make me be a bad person because of it.
No, absolutely not. So with the safari, how big is it? Like, how many animals do you guys currently have there?
How many, Jerry? Probably 40.
Okay.
It's just a small safari, and it's got anything from a zebra to a camel to capybaras to cavies to that type stuff. So it's not anything like crazy. It's not tigers or anything like that.
Yeah.
Not the next Joe Exotic situation, huh? No tigers.
Not at all.
No.
I even want to have that just because of the fact that it just implores more people to just Like the other day I had a USDA inspection, even though I'm going to court over my license in February, but I had a surprise inspection and I got no non-compliance, which means I didn't have any write-ups. There was nothing wrong. And the thing of it is because I had 2 complaints off of 2 posts that I had posted on Facebook, and one was of my sloth for her birthday. She had a birthday cake, and she dived into the cake. Now, she did not eat the cake. She just made a dent into it. And so people were turning me in for feeding my sloth cake, and he had already how great my sloth looked, and he's like, Tonia, your sloth is very, very healthy. He said, I know you don't feed her that. I said, absolutely not. I even did a second post because people were bashing me for that. So I was like, okay, here's the cake. I dug it out of the trash to show them that cake was not eaten by nobody, not the sloth nor a person, and that all in reality that it was just a little prop because people loved her because she had been in the safari since she's 2 months old and she was a year, and they all follow her and they loved the fact that we celebrated her birthday. That was what it was about. It was just for fun, but everybody ate me alive for that. And then the other was because me and my husband volunteered with a volunteer of ours to do it's called Wonderland Camp, and it's for mentally challenged people. And we just stood up on their stage and educated them about the animals. And then we let them come up afterwards and pet them while we were holding them. And if you look at my picture on my Facebook page, I had the sloth on my hip. I had the kangaroo in an arm, and it was a baby kangaroo that didn't hop around or anything. And basically, they said that I didn't have control of those animals, but my inspector had already looked at the pictures and had already knew that I did, because you could see I had my hand on the sloth's head, so that when people came by to pet, I totally had control. And the kangaroo was in my arm, so there was no way, nothing could have happened. But that just goes to show you that the naysayers and the haters just want to produce problems and cause, issues for no reason.
Come up with something.
Yeah, that's social media's biggest problem is no matter how good of a thing or gesture you're doing, they're always going to find some way to take issue with
or
it.
try to find anything they can just to be mad, to continue being upset.
I know, and it's sad because it's a waste of the government's time, and they're already short-staffed as it is. But the other thing of it is anybody that knows me knows, just like the Happy Meal versions, just like I am so sick to death of them talking about my kids eating Happy Meals. Guess what, guys? Those Happy Meals were bought by Eric Good Innocent.
Yeah.
Not Tonia. Tonia did give those kids treats, especially on holidays whenever we had parties and stuff, but they ate fresh fruit, fresh veggies from a wholesale grocer place called Proffers in Park Hill, Missouri. They'll tell you I had an account with them, and we bought cases of fresh produce every week for those chimps.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I think that's people just being blissfully ignorant in that sense, because it's clear, you're not going to feed a Happy Meal to the chimps every day, or you're not giving them these treats every single day. I mean, that's just people wanting to be blissfully ignorant.
Oh, they have badgered me so bad about that, and I'm just like, for real. So the other day I did a video of me cutting up all the fresh fruit and vegetables that I do for my capuchins and stuff that I have currently. And I mean, you can see and these are ex-breeder monkeys, not even like pet monkeys. And you ought to see the nutrition that they get. Cheese, they get protein, they get boiled eggs, they get, and I'm just like, I don't understand why anybody would want to be so mean and ugly to somebody that they don't even know and don't even know the situation.
Oof, welcome to the internet. Yeah. The internet. We have a picture that went viral a few years ago where a tortoise ripped a toilet out of our floor in our bathroom. And it was an adventure, but we posted it on Instagram, and the next day it got picked up and it went absolutely viral and became a thing. But my wife is, reading through the comments, and it amazed her at just how mean people could be, like knowing no context whatsoever, right? They just were blasting us for abusing our animal for keeping it in a bathroom when that's not what was happening at all. But yeah, so I get that, right? It's the internet, and the internet never loses somehow.
Well, I'm beginning to learn to embrace it a little better. At first, I used to have to feel like I had to defend myself. But now I'm just so used to it. I'm just like, if you guys don't like it, just scroll past, because I'm like trying to over explain myself and reiterate 50 times that I did not feed the kids that all the time. Obviously, I mean, I'm sorry. And the other thing is the comment that I made about that I loved my chimps more than I did my kids. That went viral too, because everybody's like, I can't believe that. And some people are saying, well, I'm glad she's not a mother. And I thought, well, I am a mother. I have a adopted daughter that I adopted, and I have my biological son, but they're in their 30s and they're very well-rounded kids, and they've come and they very well know that I love them and that I have their back on any situation. And my son was in the docuseries, as you guys seen. So he's living large, and he's not worried that I love Tonka more than him.
I did. When we were doing some stuff, somebody brought that up on a subreddit that we saw, and I was like, I'm not going to bring that up because I don't know how that would be taken, but it is. People did lose their mind over that, and it's like,
but I said, remember the situation. I was just coming out of a court.
Right.
Yeah. I was so like, I was having my butt handed to me. I was just like, and I just knew I was losing them kids, and it upset me. So you're just gonna say things that maybe you literally didn't mean, but you did mean. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not very helpful either when you're going through that emotional, court process. Then you come out and there's cameras in your face and in the television, all the news networks and everything in your face. Like it doesn't help any of that either. So like, but people, again, they don't have this, they want to focus on what they think is real. And they don't, even like you said, you can say over and over again the truth, or, tell them you're not feeding them Happy Meals, but they're going to ignore those videos because they want to believe that you were in the wrong, and they want to believe what they're going to believe. So yeah, I mean, I think you just keep doing what you're doing, and you just be you unapologetically, and people will see that, and you don't need to constantly defend yourself to people, especially on TikTok, because that's a whole that's a whole other cesspool of people.
For sure. By the way, you look amazing tonight.
Oh, thank you. I had to get all ready for you. You were.
I thought it was the pink and the blonde curls we had going.
I wore my pink sweatshirt just for you. I was ready to go.
Great vibe.
That's all I was thinking about. I was like, I know that she would appreciate me wearing my pink sweatshirt and getting all pretty, and got a curl my hair.
Yeah. So good.
I had to bring it all for you.
You did. You look amazing.
That was the best Christmas present right there. That just made the rest of the year.
It.
I'm
that's
good.
It.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna send Molly an audio clip of just this 10 minutes, this 10-second segment, and that's like gonna be your new ringtone. I love it.
100%.
Oh my gosh.
No, right. It's just been so special. Just getting to
this is great.
Just getting to hear your story was really important for me.
So we're creeping towards the end. I had one more question. Sure. Have you been able to see Tonka at all since? No.
And you know what's sad is that same consent decree that they hold me high standards to and accountable for, and they're trying to hit me with sanctions and all this stuff, is the same consent decree that says that I am allowed to see those chimpanzees within a 14-day notice, and that I have to follow policies of the facility that they're in. And I have begged, even before they knew Tonka was alive, I have begged them to let me go see the rest of those kids, and they will not.
Wow.
See, that to me is just, it's heartbreaking. It really is, because they do know, they have to know how much that they mean to you. I mean, that's heartbreaking that you haven't been able to see any of them.
No. And I would love to just see Tonka, first of all, because I want him to know that I didn't abandon him.
Yeah.
He got taken out of my home when he was darted, and he had no clue, and he woke up in a strange place and not even around his own chimps and that type of stuff. So I just, even if, whatever, because I've challenged them. I've said, hey, guys, you guys, if you think I'm so wrong and you guys want to show what kind of a batshit crazy lady I am, let me go out there with my transporter cage, no sedation drugs. Let me go out to that island, just me and Tonka. Let me ask him. Now, mind you, I have not seen him for 2.5 years. Let me ask him if he wants to come home. And that's the words I will use. Do you want to come home? And if he gets in his transporter cage voluntarily without sedation drugs, and I can put the big door, because it's a heavy door. It takes a little bit to get it in the track and slide it in. And he doesn't get out. Would you guys let me take him?
Yeah.
Because that means he wants to come home. And I 100% will do that anytime that they will let me. And I will do it in front of PETA. I'll do it in front of all the media they want there. I'll do it in front of everybody, because I know for a fact I can get him to go home.
Yeah. They don't want to risk the chance that he chooses to go home.
Yeah, they don't want to. They don't want to take that risk. They don't want to take that chance.
But isn't that sad though? Because they always say about
absolutely.
the welfare of the chimp, but is it?
Yeah, it's a complicated situation, right? Because it's like, on some level, you want to believe that like maybe there's some logic with certain cases, right? Very few cases where you're like, yeah, maybe this person isn't doing the best job they could taking care of animals. But it does feel like more often than not, far more often than not, it's just about us not being able to have animals, you know?
Oh.
And
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And that is a very frustrating situation to be in, because at the end of the day, you know, it would be nice to have an organization that truly did want the best for animals to make sure they're in the best environment they can be in. And it doesn't always feel like that's the case, right?
And I agree with that. And that's what I told Jerry Goodman all along. If you don't want chimps in captivity and you don't feel like it's a right thing, let's pass some new legislation. Let's get it to where nobody else can do that to these kids. But the ones that have been here 30 years, 20 years, that have known nothing but TVs, air conditioning, and, you know, all this stuff, let them die out. And once they're dead, you know, no more breeding. Let's
yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's reasonable. I mean, at the end of the day,
that's
right?
A fair
like,
point. Yeah,
like grandfather and the animals that are there, do our best to take care of those. But yeah, I mean, look, these guys are as close as it gets to being our living ancestors. And obviously there's high levels of intelligence, and maybe something should be different. But once we've humanized the animal, man, it's tough to just toss it back out in the wild and be like, okay, now you're a monkey again. Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the article that they wrote in People, one of the caregivers that's taking care of Tonka said that when he first came to the facility, he didn't know chimp politics, that he was very humanized. So anything that I've ever said, I know it sounds like, because I come off crazy, but if you really get to have a sit down with me, I'm not as crazy as all that.
Hey, it's shown through tonight.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, not as crazy as you came off in Chimp Crazy, but that's okay.
No, and when somebody's threatening to take your kid, you know,
it's
very different. Very different.
Yeah. And like I tell everybody, as far as like not being honest, like I tell everybody, okay, this was essentially a custody hearing between me and PETA over this chimp. Okay. And custody hearings over children. And my attorney's the one who brought this to my attention, because I was beating myself up. And he's like, Tonia, out of custody hearings, there is one of those parents that is lying on the other parent, obviously, every single solitary time they go into court. So they lie every single solitary time to a judge. So why are you being ousted more than anybody else is? Because guess what? It's the same behavior that other people do too.
Yeah.
Not saying that he condones that, but he's just saying, look.
No, but it's a good perspective to put it into, because I think people in general have a hard time with actual perspective, right? And looking at things from both sides, and instead they're just looking at it saying, oh, this crazy lady has monkeys and that's not okay.
Well, and it's easy to just say too, like, that you're the villain, you know, that they wanted a villain, they wanted to make a villain, and you were the easiest target for them to do that to, like, you know, with the court cases. So they don't want to actually listen to you, because then it wouldn't show that they don't want to show your actual story or show any of that, because then it just shows that you're not a villain. And they don't want that. They want you to be villainized. They want you to be the crazy person. And, you know, like I said, I mean, just this conversation, like Chase said, like, it's just shown so much, like, seeing your perspective and everything. I mean, it would change how you watch any of the docuseries now.
Big time.
I mean, it really would. I mean, it's a whole different eye-opening perspective.
And to me, like I said, because everybody asks, what do I want out of this situation? First of all, I want that Eric Good and anybody like Eric Good production can never do this to another human, that they don't have a right to tell somebody's story if that person doesn't know that story is being told. I think that it should be known to that person. And if that person chooses for that to be told, then I think that's appropriate. But to me, to lie and deceive to get what you want, and not to have that person's permission to be out there in John Q public once it's all said and done, I find it to be very, in fact, it's gross to me that anybody would do that to a human being.
And I think the good thing is that does come from this, even if they don't, like you said, even if that doesn't happen where they have to disclose that or anything like that. I do think the good thing from this is that these kinds of proxy directors, if there's any sort of other industry, Patrick and I had this conversation afterwards, is like, what industry would, or like what people would they do next? Like what animals, because obviously they had Tiger Kings. We did the big cats, and they did, and then they had you guys. So they had the chimps, and it's like, and they almost did one on the reptile industry, which we're all
They did. They just finished it.
Yeah, they just
finished. Okay.
But guess what? Eric told me, and this I have it in text. Eric said, but I gave them a pass. And he didn't use the word pass, but basically he didn't make them be villainized. And I said, so you just gave him a pass? And he didn't say nothing. He didn't respond. And the reason why he knows I know is because he owns that tortoise conservatory. And he's not going to sell out reptiles because he sells reptiles. He deals in reptiles. And yes, there's tortoises, but guess what? He's not going to make that industry bad.
No. And but I think the good thing is that, any other industry that if they have proxy directors, like, someone like a Dwayne Cunningham that comes along, a lot of people are going to be wary of this. They're going to be more wary, at least, of, a proxy director, because it's like, it wasn't a usual thing. Like how you would have had no idea, beforehand, because Eric Good, he was just right out there for Tiger King. So him using somebody else is like it was a whole different ball game. So now that this is out, how are they going to pull that stunt anymore with other people or other communities and other industries like that? I think it at least is going to make people a little more wary if, a documentary crew comes in and says, hey, I want to film you doing this and this, it's going to raise a lot more questions now for sure.
I hope so, because I feel bad for anybody that has to deal with the aftermath. I really do.
It's hard.
Oh, all right, Tonia, we are at the end of the hour. We promised we'd get you out.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
This has been incredible. Seriously,
this was an absolute treat.
So much.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you even wanting to, have me on and to have my side, because most people don't want the truth out. They just want little clips of the skinny, just so that, it brings them viewers or listeners. But I appreciate you guys very much. You guys have been very kind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to hit the outro real fast, and we'll see you backstage for a hot second.
Okay.
And wish you bye. To everybody listening, thank you so much for joining us. I hope y'all enjoyed tonight's episode. Next week, Molly?
I also wanted to bring up real quick, Tonia, is there anything you want to plug to people, your podcast?
I'm so sorry.
Your social media?
I know this sounds crazy, but I love doing cameos for people because it enlightens me. Because a lot of people ask me for birthdays and stuff, and they say how much they love you and stuff. But it's so cool to boost somebody up, or like somebody's having problems with, life, and they want advice, and it's really cool to give that to them. So the cameos are amazing. I love doing them, and basically, we are on. I've been basically doing TikTok, but we have the podcast and other stuff like that too. So
what's the best way for people to find that stuff? Is that just on iTunes, or where is it?
It is on, and it's on YouTube too, the YouTube channel. So there's several different things, but just go to my TikTok page and everything's pinned up there for links and stuff. Yep.
Fantastic.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Molly, for bringing that up. I forgot. I feel terrible.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
too, guys. I'm not
absolutely.
used to trying to sell myself.
Molly does a great job of that and keeping us all in line.
Well,
So
I
we'll-
appreciate it because Amber gets after me. Tell him. Oh, I forget.
that's exactly what Molly does.
We'll
I
make
love
sure
it.
all the links to your social media.
We'll get
Yeah,
the
we'll
links
link
and stuff.
everything too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
so much, guys.
Awesome.
Have a
Thank
great
you all.
night.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tonya.
you
You as
too.
well.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.